for you guys today. I'm going to be going over some really interesting stuff. As always, we're going to have some segments for your questions in the chat. So if you do have any questions, please put them down below. But let's get straight into it.
Jamie's just joining.
Awesome. For you guys today, I'm going to be going over some really interesting stuff. Hey Jamie, how you doing, mate?
Hi, I'm not too bad. Yourself?
Yeah, we're doing really well, actually. Doing really well. What do you want to speak about?
Okay, so as I messaged earlier in the week, I'm an incoming summer intern in first year at the Bank of England. And although I am incredibly interested in the opportunity, I sort of want to talk about how I can maximize and sort of leverage that for more consulting and finance-based roles. So any advice on that, really? And also, just like a CV check if we have time at the end.
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, congratulations, because I know it's a very competitive internship to get in the first place. Just a couple of quick things. Is this internship going to be remote? And also, kind of how long does it last?
Okay, so unfortunately, it is going to be remote. It is 6 weeks, though. So I'm getting shipped a laptop in, I think, 2 weeks or so now, which is unfortunate, but they tried their best, really, with what they could do in the situation. It is what it is.
Yeah, absolutely. So a couple of things I'm gonna kind of put out there. A few things there. So the first thing is going to be networking, and the second thing is going to be some sort of like above and beyond / leadership experience. So in terms of networking, I think it's going to be incredibly important for you to do that. So that exists for me on two separate levels. One, networking with people your age, because these will be future leaders. You know, message them, set up Zoom calls with them, get to know them. That is going to be incredibly important. Then networking with senior individuals. Bear in mind, people at the bank, like, I'll be sitting around all day, like obviously be very busy with things going on, but we'll make time for you and we'll be able to meet with you. So send out as many emails as you can and get to know them. Often, if you're interested in finance consulting, these very people who worked at the bank have worked in those other roles in the past before. So they may have those connections, they may have the industry experience. You know, you can look them up, search them on LinkedIn, see what they've done in the past, and then based upon that, selectively network there. The other thing is the BOE internship is really good. So the fact that you'll have that on your CV will bode incredibly well for consulting or finance.
Thank you.
Yeah, and to add to that, you know, like, how do you go about networking? So naturally, the team within which you're in, they're going to hopefully set you up with a few people in adjacent teams, so you get to know some people. Don't just let that be it though, because that's what everyone's going to get. Like, what I personally would recommend is, you know, sending out personalized emails to individuals within departments that you're interested in. Make sure this doesn't clash with your work, because the last thing you want to do is get asked by, you know, your manager, like, oh, have you done this? And you're like, oh, I'm actually meeting this person. So make sure it doesn't clash with that. But generally speaking, you will be really surprised by how many senior people will genuinely be willing to meet with you. Just make sure though that when you reach out, it's not like, hey, I'm new here, can we have a chat? And that's it. It's more like, I'm really interested in this specific function within the business, and I would absolutely love to talk to you about this. Maybe even almost like, I had a look at, you know, I was chatting with this person before and they recommended me to reach out to you, all that kind of stuff. Just because if 5 people email them, they're always going to respond to the one that's more customized.
The only other quick thing I'd say is, sorry, go on. You go on.
I was just going to say, because usually one of the experiences you do get is like, you'd be able to go to any of the talks they'd hold when you were there, and you can pick and choose which ones may be of interest. But obviously, because it's all remote now, I unfortunately don't get that choice. So it's the onus is more on me to go and seek out those opportunities. So thanks for that advice on how best to go about doing that.
Yeah, absolutely. The thing about consulting is a lot of leadership experience is going to be really important for you. So that's what you want to get into. That's going to be really key. Maybe difficult to get here, but anything that in general allows you to get that is going to be super important. But also, this internship will be a great pathway into any other finance roles, because it shows your interest, shows you're very smart, and probably one of the best public sector roles I feel like you can probably kind of get.
Yeah, like, there's going to be a moment, right? And you can remember this when it gets to that moment. There'll be a moment within that internship where an opportunity springs up for you to take charge, right? And it may, I don't mean that in, you know, like a let's all be leaders and like try to take over kind of thing. But I mean that in the sense of when you'll be given ownership over a significant task within which there'll be a quantifiable outcome. And, you know, there might be like a couple of people in the team, make sure you go for it, right? Or, you know, put yourself in that kind of position, you know, where you are responsible for the outcome, because consultancies love leadership experience. And for you to be able to say that you led, you know, a certain program or a certain function, and what the impact of that function will be really, really important for your future consultancy interviews.
In fact, if you could maybe suggest one, you know, maybe 3 or 4 of the interns kind of group together and like, this is the thing we want to do, you know, research or something that hasn't been suggested to you. It might not work, but it might do, right? And that using that to be like, oh, we made a change at the Bank of England is like, wait, you are like, what, 19, 20 years old and you made a big change at the Bank of England? That's impressive, right? Especially it shows the kind of initiative is going to be there. And if they're very busy or something and you like come up with your own task, they'll be so impressed with you in the first place. So I think that kind of thing, if it is available, like 100% take it.
That is golden advice there. Like if there isn't an opportunity, make an opportunity. The interns there, and like work with them towards the outcome for sure.
How much time do I have left?
I've got 4 minutes left.
Okay, is it all right if you check over my CV real quick?
Yeah, sure. I mean, it will have to be quick. I haven't seen it prior to this, but yeah, let's whip it up.
No, it's all right. Hang on, it says I don't have access to screen sharing.
Let's give us 1 sec.
That's all right.
While Amir's getting that up, just one thing that I'd tell anyone going on a summer internship is it's 6 weeks, so first impressions really matter. Anytime you get any kind of task, make sure when you return it, it's of very high quality and that you've literally written down every single thing that you need to do and your deadline. Like people definitely look at things like, when did they send it back? Like if you send it back, you know, like late in the evening, they're like, oh, you know, he's a hard worker. If you send something back ahead of schedule, they're like, oh, very efficient. You know, those kind of first impressions are really important in such a short period of time. So go in there with like a really strong work ethic from the beginning, because by the second and third week, everyone will have like a preformed opinion of everyone within the group, because that's just like, whether right or wrong, that's just how humans are.
Yeah.
Amir, you got it up?
Oh no, Jamie's bringing it up.
Okay, cool. I will give you screen sharing.
Just everyone else watching right now, if you have any questions, please put them in the chat because we'll be answering them just after Jamie here. So
one of my first questions is, I'm part of the cohort where my GCSEs is a mixture of numbers and letters. So I haven't like sort of found a like conventional format to sort of display this in like a nice way, because usually it would be simple, but because my main like maths, English and English literature. Yeah, so it's one of these things where I think you have the freedom to make yourself sound as impressive as possible. So I'd say equivalent of, you know, in brackets, and kind of where you can, you know, because how it's kind of in the middle, where you can round up to the A star or the higher grade, just round up. Yeah, all right.
I agree. I don't think it's going to be one of those things that makes a huge difference. So I agree with there.
So do you want to, because we don't have too much time, do you want to zoom into one part of your CV and we can just look at that, like, a particular thing that you want to look at? I guess probably my leadership experience, because that's increasingly important for consulting. So like any sort of pointers on that. Do you mind if we just zoom in a little bit? Oh yeah, sure.
Yeah, we're getting old. Yeah, that's perfect.
Oh, there we are.
Right.
Yeah, so in terms of the first one there, did you actually invest the 1,500?
So this is something that I've been elected to do essentially for next September. So like the whole recruitment process for that is ongoing. So I don't know the exact specifics of how many I'll lead, but based on last year, it'll be a team of 8 to 10, and we'll actually invest that amount of money, because the way the fund works is about.
Okay, yeah, I get what you mean. Okay, so in terms of this, what I'd kind of do is, so you're gonna be applying next year, right? So when you actually get around to it, depending on if you've done it or not, I would talk about the selection process, because obviously to be in charge of this, right, must have been quite a process, like how you went through. basically the problem here is it's too vague. Like, I don't know what you're doing.
Yeah.
I want to know, like, develop strong commercial awareness means nothing to me. Instead, if you're like, you organize the team into like 4 divisions and you did this and you invest, or maybe you designed the training program for them, or, which led to X tangible outcome, that is going to be really, really powerful. Or if when you applied, maybe 35 other people applied, but you were selected like number 1 out of 35 to lead, that kind of thing could be really powerful there.
Yeah, agreed. Like I would talk about, the, selected, out of competitive process, receiving the role out of, 47 different applicants, what he was based on. So like the extensive knowledge of the metals and mining industry, for example, to lead a team of 8 other analysts with a total portfolio of X amount. I think it sounds like you always have to wonder, like within the first line, like, is it descriptive or is it value adding? Yeah. And you always want to make it value adding. And I worry that that first line's descriptive, but you're very much, it's a very good thing for you to talk about there. Yeah, so I think they seem to, again, with the equity fund as a senior analyst, this is something you have done, right?
Yeah, this is what I've done this year. Yeah.
So I think that's a great line, to be honest. Like, I think you've got some good content there. I would be more specific in terms of, so I would personally remove the word assisted the team manager.
Yeah.
Because like that, for me, when I read that, like just instinctively, I feel like, oh, is this someone adding that they did something? Like, even though you definitely did stuff here.
It reminds me, have you seen the US Office where Dwight always refers to himself as assistant to the regional manager?
Assistant regional manager, yeah.
That's exactly the connotations that you say when you use that phrase.
Yeah, like I think, choose a different word apart from monitor as well. More about like the decision-making process and how you are responsible for that, and how you ended up leading the team to a 6.2% return in comparison to an average of this return, for example, within a 6-week period.
I just want to highlight for everyone who's watching, the connotations of words are very important. It's very intangible to explain what this means, but this is a really good example. Words like assisted and monitor imply you are someone who is on the sidelines. So when you construct it, you can literally be doing the exact same thing, but the way you phrase it makes you sound like significantly less or more impressive, depending on how you do that. If you kind of, it's very, very important whenever you do a CV to bear in mind.
Brilliant. That was very useful. Thanks.
No worries, man. The other thing I wanted to highlight was when you mentioned developed a strong commercial awareness of healthcare and pharmaceutical sectors. Exact same thing in regards to what you mentioned about the equity fund manager, where you don't want to be descriptive. Additionally, like even if those 2 lines were perfect, make sure that there's no repetition within the CV itself. Because like if it's going through like an ATS system or anything, for example, you want to be getting as many different keywords as possible. Okay. There's something to consider. So what did you do? Could you explain that last bullet point a bit for me?
So essentially the way the equity fund works is you basically work in a division team. So this year I worked in healthcare, and every week, usually 4 out of the 8 teams, 4 out of the 8 people would come and pitch a stock for us to invest in. And this is where sort of the investing over 1,500 comes from, because each team has a certain amount of money to invest in stocks and shares depending on whichever division they're in. So you basically base what you invest in on the pitches, so you can invest in any stock that is pitched by any of your team. But obviously the sort of more persuasive your pitches are and the more successful the companies you choose, obviously the better your division will perform.
So I would talk instead then about the rigorous process by which you selected stocks, presented them to senior management, and resulted in very strong returns. And really position that as leadership experience. So think of those kind of key words, because for example, it sounds ironic, right? And it is back to the connotations thing. But when you say leadership, like I'm sure there's something you can Google as well. Think of like leadership action words, maybe Google that. And like stuff like responsible developed will definitely come up. But again, like make it seem, more like a decision-making role, like
less
that kind of
passive.
thing. Yeah.
Exactly. Stuff like created or solely responsible or spearheaded, those kind of words. We've probably got about a minute left. Is there anything you kind of want to bring up or talk about in addition?
No, I feel like you've been more than enough help. Thanks. Definitely
Thank
left me with some stuff to think about.
Oh, one other thing. This is just advice that I received from back in the day from a couple of places. So this is me relaying it as opposed to having any opinion. A couple of I think partners or associate partners will like take poker off as one of your interests to my CV, just because of the connotations in regards to like the gambling element. Although it's a kind of thing where like if you did have some really good returns or something, then maybe you might want to mention it. But it's a kind of thing that a few people might like have misconceptions or
the reason I put it on there was because I'm also looking towards S&T roles and poker, and sort of the game theory and the mathematics behind it is something that they sort of like. So I think this is more like my general CV, but I think maybe with consulting roles it'd be something that I take off.
Yeah,
just in case you have prejudice, because I see poker and I'm like, oh, that sounds fun, whereas other people may,
I know what you mean.
Yeah, awesome. Best of luck with your internship, Jamie, and definitely keep in touch, man.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, guys.
No worries. You have a good day. If you have any questions, put them in the chat right now, because we're going to be answering them for the next 3, 4, 5 minutes. Rory Conway has asked, how can you break into MBB consulting if you're not Oxbridge? How high is the academic bar for an MBB first round? So it's very hard to say exactly for certain. But in terms of breaking in, I think there are a few things that are really key. First of all, the big consultancies do visit non-target target unis. They actually go around to them in the UK and they do tours of them. So when they come to your uni, please seek them out. Message consultants, maybe LinkedIn, or if there are other people who've done summer internships, please do message them, or from your uni or other places, and try and get their advice. Because that's one really big barrier to entry, is just not knowing about the process, because it's stuff online, but really finding out about it is super, super key, I think. In terms of the academic bar, it's hard to say. The grade that I applied with for maths was a 78. That's what I got in my first year or second year. So that's personally what I had, but they could, again, that's for maths. So bear in mind that this will vary it's harder to get like a high first in like a history degree than it is in like a STEM degree. So, but I'd say a high 2-1 or a first is kind of where you want to be at in terms of that. There are no hard and fast rules, but generally you kind of want to be on something like that. Azhar, anything to add there?
Just leadership experience. Like if you're, even if you don't come necessarily from like one of those reputable universities, I think if I see someone that has really, taken a personal project from the ground up and has showed that kind of level of business acumen or entrepreneurship, for example, I'm very, very impressed, irrespective. So it can be definitely something to differentiate yourself. Perhaps if, your academics maybe aren't as strong as someone who's coming with that high first, but, you still seem very, very impressive in terms of your ability to lead a team and to create like powerful outcomes for the firm.
Yeah, definitely. In terms of the kind of archetypes of people I saw kind of, your very standard kind of Oxbridge type people, maybe they're part of the union or something like that. You've also got people who are very into startups, so they did their own startup stuff. You've got a lot of people who are into like a lot of charity and fundraising, which can also like put you a long way. You've also got people who are, very, very good in like some sort of sporting capacity or some sort of like large achievement, but also have great grades to kind of back it up, and also great public speaking skills. And communications is super important. If you can't feel like you hold a room, you don't have a certain gravitas to the way that you speak or a certain clarity in your communication, that will significantly hold you back, irrespective of your background. So the summary is, I think it's difficult to break in. However, the key aspect that I would kind of go for in terms of breaking in is seek people who know what it is and get them to help you out.
Yeah, and we've got Abira waiting to come in now.
Cool.
So I'll just let her in. Oh, I got the gender wrong.
Hey, Amir, how you doing, man?
Hey, Vera.
I'm good. Oh, we don't know. I'm using my friend's laptop because my laptop's webcam doesn't work, so it's south, actually.
Oh, okay, yeah. I
Hope that's
thought so.
fine.
I was
Otherwise,
like,
I
I
can do
didn't
it from my
recognize this
phone.
person, but
No worries, man.
Okay, so it's south. How you guys doing?
yeah, doing really well. And yourself?
Yeah, I'm good. Looking forward to this 10 minutes.
Cool, awesome.
Likewise.
So, did you want to talk through your CV and kind of go through that? But before we go through that, kind of, what are your goals? What do you want to like? What do you want to go into? What's kind of the aim?
Okay, great. So I just came to the UK a few months ago. I did my pre-masters, and I'm starting my masters in finance and management from Strathclyde Business School in Glasgow. And I've been interested in MBB consulting, Mackenzie Bain, BCG for about a few years now. But I was in Pakistan earlier, so we didn't have much opportunities in that area. So I'm new to the UK. So a little bit of perspective from how someone is new to the UK with the work visa requirements and everything, how you could get opportunities while in university to build up your CV with UK relevant experience and go towards that. So that's a bit of what I'm looking for and what my goals are right now. So my master starts in September, and I'm hoping to get some experience on my CV and inside my brain before I graduate.
Awesome. I'll bring up your CV so people can start looking at it and just kind of gain some insight.
Sure.
First of all, the legal stuff, I'm not 100% sure about. So make sure you check that up separately, whether, the right to work kind of thing. What I do know is if you are a foreign-born national and you get a full-time offer role, McKinsey will sponsor your visas. And a lot of the MBB firms do that. So because obviously when you go to a more prestigious firm, then they have the kind of capacity to sponsor the visas of their talented people. Cool. Let's jump kind of straight into it and kind of go into some of this. Azhar, do you want to start, or do you want to start?
Happy to start. So again, just like a very small thing, I'm sure like you wouldn't include this if you're applying to a different firm, but make sure that obviously you remove the top bar in regards to, looking for, if you go all the way to the top in regards to, the part-time roles or like any of that. Additionally, the summaries are really good when you're trying to convey a lot about yourself in a very small amount of time. So like a lot of value. So if you went, for example, something like, I have experience scaling up a startup from 0 to a certain amount over time, and I have 4 years of experience within B2B sales, then I think summaries can be quite valuable. But I think it's quite a hard thing to get right. So I probably recommend not using a summary in this case. Cool. Additionally, one thing that I would mention is within your first paragraph for your work experience, at NetSol Technologies, I think you want to very much quantify what you brought in terms of value more, because a lot of it is quite descriptive. So if I was an employee and I read that, what I see is, okay, so he has done some kind of analysis about meeting customer expectations, but it doesn't tell me specifically about how you added value and why you have proficiency within that skill in the same way that someone who, I don't know, did certain analysis which led to this change and like a 25% increase in efficiency, or like reduction in labor costs, or, the analysis led to a 5% increase in customer retention, or, like using those numbers is really, really important. Amir?
Can I question about that?
Go on.
The business analyst role was basically I had to go to clients and figure out what their business requirements were, and had to form those in a document and then explain those to software developers who then made the software. So I was trying to quantify it. I couldn't actually find numbers because it isn't related to business in the sense that I increased efficiencies or revenues. It was just a process that I was a part of. So I'll work on that. I'll try to figure out how to quantify it, but it's not going to be that easy, I think.
Okay, so I'll give you some quick tips on how you might be able to do that, right? So the first one is talk about the size of the clients that you were dealing with. So, the fact that you're able to hold a room with, clients of a certain size or within a certain industry is very interesting to me. And if I'm an employer, instead of saying, oh, he did some analysis, I'm saying I can put this person in front of a big client, or, like clients regularly. This is someone I can trust and has gravitas. So definitely mention, you know, that part of the process. Additionally, do you have any idea in regards to the size of the deals that might have been closed as a result afterwards? Like obviously not like complete revenues, but like the rough size of these deals.
Yes.
That's something that I would also definitely include.
Okay.
I would mention, you know, like you held these meetings with, you know, maybe the architects, or in regards to, you know, what the customer requirements were. Yeah. And therefore, as a result, the sales team or the sales cycle, for example, or the developers were able to build it specific to those expectations, and how that contributed to overall, like, how would I put this? Overall, like, yeah, client satisfaction and stuff as well, right?
Okay.
All of that stuff.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, comments for me in terms of the education. I want to know how well you've done here. A lot of people include their grades. If I see someone has included their grades, I think, oh, they've probably done quite badly. Why are they not telling me? Yeah. So that's something just to kind of think about, because the kind of grade requirements they will want to see that being quite well, being quite good rather. Again, here, you've kind of talked about, you've mentioned something but not explained it. Yeah. And I'm left to wonder, either it's good enough to value being on your CV, or it's not good enough. So if it has that value, I want to know more about it. Because what you're kind of telling me is, you know, this is a thing I've done, but it's not that important. That's a signal you're telling me that it's not worth talking about. Yeah. So either include it and talk about it, or don't include it at all. Is kind of the advice I'd give generally. Now, your startup with Asli Fruits, that is an amazing. When I read this, that was the thing I was like, this is impressive. I was super impressed of that. I think this was it reads really well. The numbers are quantified in an incredibly smart way. If there's any way to make it sound more impressive, you know, somehow, you know, the fact that you led the team, or you single-handedly, you know, you made the thing, or any other way to quantify that kind of impact, that you had on that, or maybe the impact you had on people's lives could be amazing. But that is it's a really important thing to have for consultancy, the startup stuff. In fact, you know, this for me is the most impressive stuff you've got. Yeah,
I think the same. But it's like it ended in August 18, so it's about 2 years old or so. So I'm trying to build something, like try something new here in the UK. So I'd like advice on that. What I could do, what opportunities do I have over here while I'm doing my master's to do something similar, because I can't actually run a business on my visa. That's not allowed. So I was thinking about part-time work in the evenings during classes, or an internship, but I can't seem to find any. So
one thing you could do is some sort of volunteering, or a charity, or fundraising. So if it's not directly a business, because you don't have to make money because you can't work technically, something like that, some sort of volunteering charity, you set up an organization that helps other people. You know, you need a team of 30 volunteers. That could be amazing. I don't know, go help out some homeless people. You know, go old people's home. Anything like that is equally as impressive as a startup. Potentially more so, because there's funding is difficult to get. But you still get that same leadership experience.
Have you heard about Catch a Fire?
Sorry?
Have you heard about catchafire.org?
I haven't, no.
It's this platform where skill-based volunteers or professionals, they build an account and they get in touch with NGOs who need people for business services. You basically volunteer for helping them make a business plan or set up accounting process and stuff like that. But it's all virtual. So do you think that would help, or do you prefer I go somewhere physically and do volunteer over there?
Anything can be great as long as it's your own personal impact. It doesn't matter how it manifests, but it's you who needs to be the main cause of the impact, or at least you need to be able to explain it in that way, if that makes sense, right? The reason why this is impressive and the above is not as much is because here it sounds like you were the one who spearheaded all of this. Here it sounds like you were a cog in a machine who just did his job.
Yeah.
Does that make sense, kind of, yeah?
Yeah, that's right.
This one, again, this is really good as well. Partnership raised a lot. I kind of want to know a bit more what you did when you led this team. You led a team of 60 people. How were you impressive? You know, anyone can technically lead a team, but you know, would you have a specific technique? You know, how did you have like a organization? Did you, you know, I just wanted to give me a bit more detail about that, because the numbers are amazing, but I want a tiny bit more. Next thing, I kind of remove these because I can't believe you. Like, unless you tell me why you have these skills, you may as well not write them. Because it's like, why, again, everyone can write the word leadership, but only those who can demonstrate it through their actions actually have that, if that makes sense.
Okay. and that can be proved from the above experience.
Exactly, right. It's the kind of thing that you want to showcase.
Okay.
And you have got a lot of content here. You're not at risk of not having content. I think one thing that I would also do is action words.
Okay.
So in a lot of different places, you're talking about you co-led or you led or those kind of words. Try and be as unique as possible in terms of ensuring that you don't use the same word consistently throughout.
Okay.
Additionally, when you talk about raising 60,000 in investment, if we just talk to me about like what you did in order to do that, because all you've said so far is you worked in a team. Like, talk about the competitive process. Talk about your specific value add there.
Okay.
Additionally, right, the one after, you always want to think about what will the employer think.
Okay.
So when I hear you procured and sold 8,000 kilograms of apricots, I'm like, wow. But that doesn't mean anything to me in terms of the size of the deal, for example, or like that kind of thing. But if you told me, over a 3-month sales cycle, for example, you procured from, I don't know, like third-party companies, this like set amount of apricots, set like number of apricots, and then you sold them at a profit of this much. I'm like, this person's a salesperson,
or this kind of margin, just to give that a bit more color, when you talk about, the investment you've raised, right? That can be incredibly powerful. But what did you do? Did you create the pitch deck? Did you approach the VCs? What was your contribution? Because what you've gone there is you've gone work in team, and the kind of meme where it's like the steps in the middle is like question mark and just profit. That's what you're doing on your CV.
Okay.
If you see what I'm saying there, right?
Yeah.
Like, there are a bunch of missing links, and I just want a bit more information about what it is specifically that you did that led to that outcome.
Okay. Sounds great. Okay. Can I ask just one question? I think the time's up or so. If you think I should take out some experiences from my CV so I can explain more on the more important ones, I take out that accounting intern at multi-packages and the consultant on the marketing firm, right? Or unless I can write more about that.
It depends. Whatever you think had the biggest personal impact. Like, I don't know what you did, but whatever you think you can explain that had the greatest impact that you single-handedly contributed to, as opposed to being that cog in the machine, that is what I'd prioritize to talk about.
Okay, great. Okay, sounds good.
Completely agreed with Amir there.
Yeah, awesome. So it was lovely to have you on the show, and hopefully I'll catch you around, man.
Yeah, great to be here. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you, man.
Cheers. See you in a bit. All right. If you've got any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat. And we'll be answering them for the next kind of 7 minutes or so. Please put as many as you can think of. Hannah says, "Hey, back again. What would be the best approach?" Thanks, Hannah. To answering the interview question, tell me about yourself and what's your greatest weakness.
Ooh. Okay, so this is, in my opinion, this is how just I answer it. You want to give a personal answer that reveals a bit about your personality. So, like for me, I would talk about, so sure, I'd mention, like finish university, all that kind of stuff. But additionally, I talk about what my passions are. So I talk about, like I started my first startup when I was, 19 with a few of my best friends. This is what we did. If you haven't done anything like that, you can talk about, the projects that you've been passionate about and led, why they mean a lot to you. And that way, they're like, oh, this person really cares about this kind of thing. You can talk about things that really interest you. So, Amir has a lot of public speaking experience. So I would probably talk about, for him, like, world debating championships or, that kind of thing. And then lastly, bring it back to, I personally bring it back to why I'm here interviewing at the firm. To all make it part of like a cohesive story.
Yeah, the way I'd kind of think about it in my head is I'd have 2 or 3 points I really want to hit with one conclusion that kind of links it back. So I might talk about, I'm this kind of a person and I am super passionate about, maybe it's education and, blah, blah, that's why I've been really, really interested in, and et cetera, et cetera. And then you want to make it as personal as possible and link it back, as I said, right at the end, to something that you do really care about. What about your greatest weakness?
So I actually, like, just FYI, I answered this question really badly one time. What I did was, so this was, I applied for a firm in a gap year scheme, and I didn't end up taking the gap year. And what I did was I was really honest, and I mentioned a massive weakness. And at the end of the interview, they were like, "Azhar, you probably shouldn't be that honest." So in terms of actually answering the question, I think you do want to mention something that is a weakness, in my opinion. But additionally, you want to talk about that you're the kind of proactive person that's taken certain measures to mitigate that weakness and overcome that weakness. And, show like a step-by-step approach that you might have taken to show, you're very organized in doing that. That's my personal opinion. Amir?
Yeah, I completely agree there. I think the ideal is to say that you had a weakness, that you're talking about a weakness that not just you have, but you're currently in the process of tackling. And I'd phrase it in a very specific way. So when I talk about weakness, I'd say, I'm the kind of person who loves to get feedback. And, everyone thinks that they don't have weaknesses, but, I went to my managers and I actually I went out of my way to kind of gain feedback from these different areas. And, I got X, Y, and Z result. So it wasn't that you happen to have a weakness, you went out of your way to get that weak, to find out what that was. And you created like a 3-step action plan to kind of tackle it. And you think it's going to work, but you're constantly self-evaluating to see whether the action plan will work. That kind of thing can be really, really powerful. Like, what you've done, what the weakness is, what you're doing to tackle it, and kind of embellish that with, you're the kind of person who seeks out to solve the weaknesses, right? You're not the kind of person who happened to find a weakness by chance, but because of a systematic way that you approach problems, you are necessarily going to tackle weaknesses in the future as well. So it's showing how you are systemically excellent as opposed to on a one-off, if that's what makes sense as well. Asked, what is the most desirable basic software ability to have as a skilled investment banker consultant, i.e. Tableau, Excel, discounted cash flow analysis, if one has 2 weeks to learn a skill? So there are two framings of this question. One is, which one of these skills do I need to get a job? One is, which one of these are genuinely useful? Now, in terms of getting a job, none of those are useful. No one will hire you from a top firm just because you have these skills, because they'll teach you on the job. It's easy to teach someone this skill, right? Like companies spend, buy bulk packages, you learn it on yourself, and you learn on the job, and within 4 weeks you're a master, easy. In terms of on the job, you will definitely need to use Excel and Tableau if you're a consultant. Like there will be projects in which that's extremely important, but it is not required in order to get that job in the first place. Rather, what they're looking for is smart people who've done really cool things.
Yeah, completely agreed there with Amir. Again, while it probably won't necessarily help you in getting the role, for me, doing a crash course on Excel before I applied to IBM made my life so much easier within the role in terms of being able to get things done way more efficiently, and in order to have time to do other tasks. So I think about the specific role. I would personally reach out to someone who's working at that company right now and ask them what was the most useful skill to learn, and then have a look into, because it will differ depending on the different consultancies or investment banks.
Yeah, so Azhar's advice there is, if you've already got the job, do that. If it's not that you necessarily have the job, I would seek out other things like projects that you can do that seem impressive generically, and use that to do that, because otherwise it's very hard to quantify if you just did an Excel course, how valuable that is, and how much you genuinely took in, and how much value you can add based on the information that you kind of had there. Cool, fab. Azhar, is the next person waiting in the lobby, or are you just waiting?
We've got Bharat in the lobby, so I'll just let him in now.
If you guys have any more questions, do pop them in. Do pop them in the chat as well.
Hi guys.
Hey man, how's it going?
I'm doing great, by the way. Thank you so much for having me on. How are you guys?
Yeah, doing really well, thank you.
Yeah, I was watching the stream side by side, just getting shaky feet, like for the time, as I saw it inch closer to 440. Yeah.
So tell me, man, what do you kind of want to cover? Because it can be your CV or general stuff, whatever you want to talk about. Let's talk about it.
Right. Well, thank you so much, first of all, because we've had this to and fro like for a couple of weeks now. I think if you guys can just like look over the CV that I've created all over again, like Azhar gave me some great advice a couple of weeks ago, and I've tried to implement all of it. So just a general overview, and then I had just 2 questions, which I think we could go in a little talk a little bit about, and I think that would be it. If that's okay.
Of course. Before we go into it, I just want to know, like, what kind of goals do you have in terms of your CV? Because what do you what do you want to achieve basically? Like where do you want to go?
Okay, so I basically I'm going to finish my gap year this year. Entering university, great time to enter university. So basically, I'd be applying to internships, more or less academic or research oriented, preferably. And the long term goal is public policy after econ, and I just wanted to get roles that are in that domain, if you will. So I wanted to know how I could probably show the best side of me for these internships, for these roles in college, and make the most out of my university, essentially, whichever I'm entering.
So you're going into university like in this coming year?
Exactly. So this year in September.
Okay, fantastic. The first thing I'd say is I'd probably move your education straight to the top, just here. That's kind of the very first kind of initial thing. Azhar, anything from you?
Yeah, so a couple of things that, small things that will make a big difference in terms of your rates. So the first thing is, I feel as if the formatting isn't consistent. Amir?
Yeah, in little places, kind of like the this has not been bolded, whereas this kind of. Oh, actually, I suppose it kind of. I understand it now. It's just a bit confusing at times because certain dates are in bold, but others aren't because it's a subset of this.
Yeah. So I think while it is a small thing, I think try and make your formatting as simple as possible. So the immediate impression is the standard CV that does come through. As Amir mentioned, I would definitely move education to the top. When you do know which university or college you are going to, I would include that in terms of that you are going there.
The other thing I want to add is kind of a directional thing here, right? I read the kind of skills you've gained and what you've done, and to me they seem a bit random. Let me explain what I mean by that. When you want to go into something specific, you have a certain goal, or I want to go into this industry, right? The skills you've gained, is unclear how these link to that industry. Kind of growing YouTube is the first thing I see here, right? And I'm like, are you going to go into digital marketing, like social media? Like the skills that you're showing is like, this is my big skill I'm going to put right at the top of my CV, is not necessarily linked to the public policy skills you want to be talking about. It's like a kind of directional thing is kind of what I definitely talk about.
So I'm just going to reverse this. I'm going to spin it on its head. Barrett, what do you think are the most important skills that an employee would like for someone going into policy? Or what do you think makes someone good who goes into policy?
Analysis, research, probably someone that's good with data, storytelling, I guess, because as I've been doing a couple of data science courses, and they argue that the way that you can present data is also pretty valuable. So that's what comes to my mind right off the bat.
Awesome. So as a result of that, right, now I want you to look through, let's go back to the top of the CV, Emma. So given that's what you're applying for, the first thing I kind of want to see is all of your analytical and data skills, if that's what it takes to go into policy. So you've talked about the storytelling element a bit, but what you want to do is really, really hone in on that analysis, and the benefits of that analysis is something I definitely say. Whereas here you more present yourself as like a digital marketing intern. And I think that's okay. I think that's okay because, because you did work, in content development, I think it's a good way that you've quantified it. But if you possibly can, try and throw some kind of analytical skills in there that you showcased in order for you to succeed in that role the way that you did.
All right. Actually, just to be front here, I wanted to basically highlight the way that I worked in education and the domain that I worked in. So political science. So that's related to policy. That's what came to my mind when I was using these metrics. And these metrics were supposed to be indicative of how well I did in my job, not exactly the domain that you guys are referring to, but I get where you are coming from and I totally see it now. So maybe the thing is, I haven't had many opportunities to work in policy other than the academic side of things. So basically, the academic curricula that I have followed and the projects that I've done. So like debating and organization, writing, stuff like that. So
I mean,
if there's
no
anything
one your
missing.
age has in no industry that ever exists, is the point. So the key thing here is this stuff I see is too far down. I would maybe move like work experience and leadership into one and kind of talk about something, because these look really impressive to me. You know, you organized the MUN conference, 80 people, really impressive, raised 15,000 rupees. That again is phenomenal stuff, right? Like, you know, or maybe if you increase the amount of money that was raised, there's a lot of stuff here which is genuinely really impressive, which you did. MUN and debate are great for this kind of like policy kind of stuff as well. So the activities you've done are genuinely leading in that direction. Again, you know, the orphanage stuff, maybe a bit more detail can be kind of in that, but the quantifying here is really powerful.
Yeah, just to add on to that. So what we're not saying is that you need specific policy experience. That's not what we're saying. What we're saying is even in this CV, right, you have showcased analytical skills in regards to, you know, the digitized payment. I find that quite interesting in regards to the MVP building, in regards, you know, like all of that kind of stuff. That's the kind of stuff that I want to see way further above, if that makes sense. Like the volunteering work, or, you know, the success of the YouTube channel is the kind of thing that I might put further down in terms of like independent projects that you've run. And it's like, even in his spare time, he's super interested about political science videos. And then that becomes quite powerful and supportive, right? But always make sure that your initial content is really supporting the role that you're going for. One thing I want to add as well is, with some of your bullet points, you want to make sure that you're being more specific. So, for example, let's say me and you both did, I don't know, like educational activities like origami and basic math tutoring, right? What I'm going to say is over a 2-year period, I acquired 70 different clients with whom I logged over this many hours with and created a profit of this amount, right? Well, on like 3 different
quality of work.
Yeah. Additionally, I might be like, in my spare time, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Go on.
Okay, perfect. I might be like, I coordinated a group of, you know, 8 to 10 different individuals who met fortnightly in order to deliver, you know, sessions on origami, raising this much for charity, or, you know, as a volunteer. And when they look between the random stuff I just come up with in my head now versus a vaguer activity, they're always going to go for the person who's gone in more detail, specific with the quantification. So what I'm saying is, like, don't sell yourself short. Like, this is valuable stuff. So go into a bit more detail about that.
Yeah, it's trying to echo that. Some of the stuff that you talk about, saying led education activities, you could say that you know, created the educational program, or you led that, you know, including X number of activities, you know, unique activities, including origami and mathematics tutoring. Like, what you've said here is that you sound like you kind of like just turn up and just do whatever like comes to your mind. Instead, make it sound like you came up with a curriculum that you taught to people. There's a huge difference between the way that those two things sound, but they can literally be describing the exact same thing. Exactly similar for this that I'm going to highlight here. It sounds like you Googled stuff and were like, we can probably make a bottle out of this stuff. Instead, you were like, you created like a you know, a Gantt chart of like how long things would take. You created a cost benefit analysis of materials from a variety of suppliers. And then you maybe like, you know, made 3 prototypes, and then, you know, you picked the best one. One of them sounds like a systematic approach. The other sounds like some guy who Googles things and randomly puts stuff down. Like, the way that you phrase a lot of the stuff on the CV is very much of the latter.
And the best thing is, it's very, very easy for you to improve it. So, like, you're obviously a smart guy, and, you know, you've got all of this like useful content. So just, you know, changing the wording around a little bit, and, you know, really asking yourself, if an employer read this, what would they think about me? Would they think I'm analytical? Would they think I'm systematic? Will really, really help you in terms of, you know, showcasing your achievements.
Yeah, the really good thing here is you are clearly intelligent and you've done good stuff. Just the way you're phrasing it makes you sound as if you're not, or as if like you're underselling yourself essentially. But you've got some fantastic stuff here, genuinely, like genuinely really impressive. And I know you can make. I know it's impressive. Other thing, I don't know.
Right.
It depends on what's normal in where you live. But I don't know in the UK, this kind of thing, I just remove it. The reason for that is because it's not I can't believe you. There's no reason why you say public speaking, but why should I believe that you're actually good at it? Do you know what I mean? Like, there's nothing concrete behind it.
Right. That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. It's not just advice to you. It's advice that we give to everyone is generally speaking, if they're soft skills, it's a kind of thing that, you want to showcase through your work experience as opposed to say at the end. And if it's like hard skills, such as, statistics or, stock analysis, I would like to see, like some kind of certification or some kind of competition within that to showcase that, you really have achieved that.
Okay. All right. So certifications to display skills and more details on the bullet points that in a more systematic manner. Right. That's actually pretty great. Thank you so much. I just had one question to go by. I know I've taken up a lot of your time. It will just take 2 minutes, I swear. Not even two. I guess 30, 40 seconds for you guys to cover it. So basically the last 2 years have been kind of rough. I'm from India and I tried for a couple of universities abroad. I'm still holding out on a scholarship. I'm basically it's the financial reasons got involved as well. So I can't really go abroad without a financial aid or scholarships. Got to the interview round of Oxbridge as well, but fell short after that. So it's just been okay. So basically the point that I'm making is academic research and social research have a high degree of pedigree. It require a high degree of pedigree, especially amongst the topmost institutes. So Stanford, MIT, or Oxbridge, of course. So coming from let's say one of the good universities in India, which I would be attending in September, most probably, how could I breach this academic circle, this inner academic circle, so if you will, if that made sense?
So in what, as in to get into these universities, or is it the case that eventually
work there, essentially? So not at undergraduate, because I didn't get into any of these, but so basically work there as a professorship or in academic research, because as far as I know, academic pedigree is very important once you start applying to these institutions. So how could I break this confinement, essentially? If anything comes to your mind, of course. Other than this, I'm pretty much done. And thank you so much, you guys.
I think it's a particularly tough one. The question I ask myself is, why do you want to get into? For what reason do you want to get into them? Is it you want to make an impact in the world, or is it more that it's kind of a big name that kind of is very impressive? The reasoning is really important, right? Because that's going to drive you. Because if your reason is a specific thing, it will inform whether or not you must whether you can pivot or do other things, or whether if your reason is, you're really passionate about it, it doesn't necessarily matter where you do it as much. But if it's kind of the prestige you want to get, that definitely matters a lot, because then that's tied to the institutions. My biggest piece of advice here is when you're not sure exactly how to go about something, message people who've been in a similar situation to you and find out how they've done it. And there'll be loads of people who have done that, and see what is that you're missing on the greatest level. Is it the grades? Is it the, kind of the skills? Is it, do you need to write a paper or a postdoc to kind of get past that? And see what it is that they need, and then keep on applying. Never stop applying, and apply every single year on year. Try and break through that barrier.
Okay.
To add to that, so again, while the applying every year is very important, there is a trick, right? I don't know that trick. Amir doesn't know that trick, right? But 100% there are people who have been in your exact position who have gone and successfully done transition. And it might be through writing an incredible thesis paper or something that we're not aware of. I would really, really spend a lot of time, maybe if you create a spreadsheet, right, and LinkedIn DM every single person who's done that before, because when you find out what the most common routes were of people who've come from that kind of background, or a similar situation, right, it's probably not going to be the exact same town, or maybe not even in the people who've made that transition. It will give you a very clear path of exactly how you can try and do that, whether it means, trying to make a huge impact in a think tank or within local policy or anything like that. Best place to ask is the people who've done it before.
Equally, if there's people who've historically done it, see what they had to do, look up their history. If they're big now, chances they had autobiographies or little CVs. Go onto the CVs of academics who've come from India, who now need to look at their publications, see where they published and where their big jump or their big break was. It will give you insight into how that's actually occurred. You don't have to speak to them if you can't get the conversation, because there's a lot of research you can do that gives you insight into how that world may work.
All right, yeah, I got it. Thank you so much, guys. I've already extended my time by 5 minutes. I'm extremely sorry about that.
It's all right.
Thank you so much for having me on, and you've given me some great stuff. I'll get to work right away. Keep up the good work. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day and stay safe.
Thanks, man. You too. Take care now. Speak
Bye-bye.
to you soon. Bye. Azhar, have we got our final person in the lobby?
We have not.
Interesting. So that means we've got about 5 more minutes for questions. I think Hannah M asked, or 4 more minutes. Azhar, what was your experience at IBM like?
Ooh.
Depends how much we have to say here.
Okay, there's so much I could say. I'm gonna just give you a just the insight of what it's like to work for a really big firm, I guess. So when you apply to a firm like IBM or like a global organization like that, one thing that is very important to understand is something called subcultures. And what that means is your experience working in different departments across the firm will be very, very different to someone who's in a different department, So like some people's hours might be a lot shorter, or management might be more relaxed. In other roles, you might be working way longer hours requiring like completely different skill sets. So one thing I loved about IBM was the kind of people that I got to meet. Like I was that person who was going for coffees with like everyone, like 2-3 times a day kind of thing, like quick coffees in like different departments. And I really got to understand consulting, both from the perspective of, someone in sales or like a bid manager, but also from the perspective of someone who's more like an architect working on a client project. So you really get to meet like a very wide variety of people when you're working for those kind of large corporations. I had an incredible time at IBM.
Yeah, those kind of it very much applies to especially governmental organizations as well. Often they tend to be very large and have many different functions and organs within them. So this is especially true if you ever apply to the civil service fast track scheme. Your experience will depend entirely on which department you're in. Some I've heard are amazing, others genuinely atrocious, and you may as well just don't work, just quit. There's no point in working there. And to some degree, it's a bit of a lottery. That's the same with your progression, same with the hours, same with the development you get and the training you get. Sometimes these firms will get amazing people in managerial positions. Sometimes you'll have someone who's stuck in what I call the middle management trap. They're someone who's just not that good and has been working for their company for a long time and is never sufficiently good to get a promotion, so they kind of stay in that position, but the company kind of can't fire them because they've been there for quite a while. So you get people who are necessarily mediocre stuck in these positions, and if you're under them, then it's very hard for them to give you any training or kind of help you up through that role. So that kind of thing could be damaging if you kind of get into that.
And I think we have sadly reached the end of the stream for this week. Go on, Amir.
Yeah. As always, if you ever want to be on the show, please send myself or Azhar a DM on LinkedIn. The link is in the description. So if that's anything you want to be part of, please let us know. But until next week, hope you have a fantastic day. And as always,